from a strategy standpoint, I think sometimes companies, certainly if they start in the United States and they're not already, not the international company whose product is maybe initially in the EU and then they come over to the US, or in the Far East and come over to the US. But if a product is being produced and developed here in the United States, in terms of maybe the short-term game plan versus long-term game plan from a strategy standpoint, what that could look like, because it seems like sometimes companies, they're thinking about the short game and then could potentially miss some opportunities down the road, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And so regulatory affairs is absolutely a long game. And we'll get into that at different points throughout in terms of strategy, the importance of investing in relationship building, not only with the teams inside the business, but also with the reviewers, because in many cases, your reviewers are going to be the same people over and over again. So learning more about them is also going to be very important for the long term. So, but in terms of strategy, what happens often is that the international RA group is left out, is considered downstream, which is like second phase. And so they're not invited to the initial strategy discussions in phase A, phase B, which is your proof of concept, initial ROI, vetting phases. And that's really unfortunate, because there's a myth that it's easier in the US, that the US is harder than rural markets. That's actually not true. In many cases, it's much more difficult in rural markets. Excuse me, sorry, there's someone doing lawn work outside of my house, so I apologize.
No worries
about that. But the FDA is very mature. The rules are in English. It's much more predictable. The data requirements are fairly clear. In many rural markets, this is not the case. And you can have much longer time periods for certification, or even requirements for type testing and compliance with local standards that the US just doesn't have. So in terms of scoping and timing, and is it really worth it, and the overall space in the business, then we're left out in the downstream. And it's really unfortunate, because we can provide a lot of feedback up front that may change the course of what we decide to do, or the order in which we decide to do it, if we're allowed to get involved earlier in the process.